Hey friends, you're watching this video because there's a version of yourself that is just tired of being everything for everybody else, but you don't know how to pull back. Some of us are just out here leaking creativity, energy, and access to people who don't deserve it, don't appreciate it, don't reciprocate it. And some of us need to hear somebody else say it. So I'm going to say it to you, friend. Enough is enough. It's time for you to start using your no and to take your voice back and limit access to some people. We're about to talk about it. We need to address why it's so hard for us to speak up for ourselves and to create and enforce boundaries. What is it really for? Are we trying to portray ourselves as nice people? Are we afraid of being called a gatekeeper or somebody saying that we're not a girl's girl? Like, nah, we're moving past that and it starts today. If you've been feeling drained or stretched too thin or like you're being taken advantage of, this message has found you at the right time. Hey guys, I'm Thiy, and this is my very first video. Now, I am in my mid 30s. I'm an introvert, and I'm the type of person who doesn't just speak to hear herself speak. So I've been exactly where many of you are right now. And since I'm typically this laid back, reserved, quiet person, when I start to assert myself, people always take it as me being angry and not just a neutral boundary being set. One of the more recent times that I've set a boundary with someone, they came back and said, "Oh, her true colors are finally showing." No, the person that you know, that is me. However, I am also capable of speaking up for myself. And that's what you're experiencing now. It's not that I'm changing my personality, it's not that I'm angry. It's just that enough is enough and you can't have access to me anymore. If that makes me angry, so be it. It's not accurate, but feel how you're going to feel. There's still going to be a boundary at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, setting a boundary is not a personality change. It's not a switch up. It's a survival skill. It's self preservation. So, as I said today, we are going to talk about what you need to do in order to stop giving away so much of yourself to other people beyond what you're okay with sharing. Because at the end of the day, boundaries are not so much for other people, they are for you to protect you, to preserve you. So let's go into this whole thing with realistic expectations. Yes, we are today at a point where we know that we have to start this process, but it is a process. It's not something that's going to switch overnight. You don't just go from giving so much of yourself to automatically not giving any of yourself. That is not how this is going to work. So I don't want you to have these unrealistic expectations for how this is about to transition. And don't get me wrong, some people, the situation is so bad that you do have this thought that there needs to be no more access to them, and you do cut them off or you do ghost them and you don't talk to them anymore because you've already had the conversation too many times. So that does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. However, you usually don't just have this thought and then there's a light switch and then the next day it's working like that. No. But what does happen is that you wake up one morning and you're like, I can't continue to do this. I can't keep overextending myself like this. Something's got to change. And today is probably that day for you if you came across this video. One of the biggest reasons why this is a whole process and a whole transition is because people who are used to having unlimited access to you don't know what to do without that access anymore. It is a struggle for them. And that's in a completely healthy situation where people aren't being toxic, but, might not even realize that they're requiring too much of you. So when we talk about a toxic situation, we're talking about people manipulating you, gaslighting you, and just trying to get you to loosen up on this boundary that you're setting. They're not going to take you seriously at all. They're going to act like they're confused, even though they know exactly what the hell's going on. You can assure them, look, I'm not angry. I'm not mean. I'm not upset with you, but this is happening and you need to get with it. And what's always been interesting to me is that we do have conversations about not giving too much of yourself to other people, especially when we're talking to our children. But I know for me being a millennial, growing up, that conversation wasn't so much about this part of your being. It was always focused on sex, and it was always geared toward women, like young women. You don't want to give your bodies away to just anybody, or you want to make sure that you're saving yourself for your husbands. But I think that we need to shift that, one, to also bring young men into the conversation, but to also let people know that it's deeper than just giving away your physical body. Like giving yourself too much of yourself to other people is something that is across the board. And we need to start talking to our young people about this so that when they reach adulthood, they know how to have boundaries. I do have a theory, though, that we are not taught these things because certain older people need us to buy into not having boundaries with them. But that is another video for another time. But if you know, you know. But back to the matter at hand, people will be a little bit shocked by the so called switch up that's not even really a switch up. Like I said, I'm not a loud person, but I am very clear. And when something bothers me or when people have gone too far with me, I'm going to speak up and let them know. Oh, baby, but when I do, that's when people hit me with the, oh, wow, I didn't expect you to be like this. Like what? Direct, assertive, super protective of my stuff? Why wouldn't I be? People love to assume that because I am quiet, I am passive. And if we're being completely honest, that's where a lot of people get me effed up. Like, for real. And I'm not the only person who deals with this. I recently wrote an article on my website, iloveus.media, about this. There was a guy who was in college and he made a video. Mind you, I don't remember all the details. I absolutely purge information after I write articles. But there was a guy who was in college and he attended Morehouse. So if you know anything about that area of colleges in Atlanta, they're pretty close knit and tend to do homecoming activities together. So he's at Morehouse. There's this other creator who's a woman, and she asked for the homecoming footage. Now, I don't remember if he's flat out said no or if he just didn't respond to her. Nevertheless, she did not have permission to use his content. She did a screen grab of his video and then inserted that footage into her video. And instead of, waiting around for her to take the video down, he went straight to YouTube. Like, she's monetizing my footage. She does not have permission to use this. And after she got demonetized, that's when she wants to come back and ask for permission and give apologies and everything like that. He stood 10 toes down. I was proud of the little bro, which is why I had to interview him and write an article about this whole plagiarism thing, because right now it is such an annoying time if you are creative, because people will just steal your stuff and then try to act like it's not a problem, like plagiarism is not a problem. But that is exactly how you handle thieves. Very proud of the little bro. So, if you're creative and you're watching this and you've come across this situation where somebody is taking your thoughts, or if you write a very good Threads post or Facebook post and somebody copies it verbatim without giving you credit, call them out. And yes, we know as creatives, we have an unlimited supply of ideas because that's just who we are. And these people have to copy because they don't have that source. They're not tapped into that source the way that we are. And again, you don't necessarily have to be angry or combative to assert yourself. It's a very matter of fact thing that you were the person who originally wrote it, or you are the person who originally created it. And leaving a comment saying, I would appreciate it if you could tag me because this is my original piece, this is my artwork, blah, blah, blah. Listen, that is your right as the person who created it. And folks love to say, well, there's nothing new under the sun. And while, people may subscribe to that line of thinking and everything, even with me experiencing something with my partner, we are going to have two different ways of expressing that just because we've lived two different lives with two different sets of experiences. So the way that I see something as a millennial Black woman, I mean, he's Black too, but the way that I see things as a millennial woman, who grew up in Harlem, New York, and then moved to Baltimore County, and then lived in Prince George's County, and all of these other experiences I've had throughout my lifetime is going to look way different than how he experiences things as a Black man who is in Gen X, okay, who grew up in South Jersey. It's just going to be different. We're going to have two different opinions on things. We're going to articulate things differently in speech and, in writing, in our artwork. It is not going to be the same. There's a lot of a difference. There's a big difference, I should say, between being inspired by something that somebody says and doing the copy paste. Even when you only change two words, it's not adding razzle dazzle. That is still plagiarism. And it's okay to call it out when they take your stuff. And in the same vein, right now, we're also in a time where people are manipulating others out of their boundaries under the guise of, oh, you're not a girl's girl, or oh, you're a gatekeeper. If you need someone to say it to you, I'll go ahead and say it. You have to stop worrying about those criticisms because they're fake. When people ask you to share something or ask if you will share something, that is a yes or no question. No is a valid response to that question, and no is a complete sentence. And the issue is not so much that you don't want to share whatever it is with those people. The issue is that people are not used to hearing no. So instead of them dealing with their feelings about your no, they try to turn it into a character flaw about you, saying, oh, you're a gatekeeper. Oh, you're not a girl's girl. Oh, you're a hater. All of the above. Ignore it. You asked me a yes or no question and I answered no. So now I have weird energy. No, I think it's pretty weird that you are projecting your discomfort with my no back onto me. Case in point, when I was like a preteen slash teenager, I had the most amazing day with my grandma Wanda, which is my mom's late stepmom. And around this time, we were living in a community called Owings Mills. If you're familiar, it's in Baltimore County. But anyway, we lived in one townhouse, and then my aunt and uncle lived walking distance, like the next cul-de-sac over, in a townhouse there. So a lot of times my sister and I would go over to my aunt's house because she didn't have any daughters yet, and we are her first nieces. So anytime she wanted to do anything girly, she would invite us over to the house. So this particular day, my grandma Wanda was also over there, and it just became this really fun girls' day. Me and my sister got our hair done, we got our nails done, and we were baking cookies with Grandma Wanda. Grandma Wanda, she could throw down when it came to baking. Oh my gosh. She was that family member that everybody wanted to look and see if she had baked something when we would have our Christmas parties or family cookouts and things, because she would make a really good 7-Up cake, but she also knew how to make cookies and just lemon pound cakes, all the stuff. It was so good. So this particular day, she promised that she would bake cookies with us, and then she taught us to bake cookies from scratch. That recipe is one that I still use to this day when I make cookies from scratch. And every time I eat those particular cookies, because she used to like little bits of Heath bars in her cookies. So whenever I make my cookies like that, I always think of her, and it always gives me like warm fuzzies because she's passed away. She's been passed away for nearly 10 years now. And my granddad passed away the year after she passed away. So losing both of them, like these memories of her, these memories of them, they're really personal to me, something that I hold dear. And I really only have, one living grandparent that I'm super close to. And there are just things, these memories of grandparents that I don't want to give to everybody like that. Fast forward to adulthood, I made these cookies one time and I shared them with somebody who was essentially a stranger to me. Like I was being nice and I brought the cookies, And yeah, they love them. So I was like, this is my grandma's recipe, hoping that that would just be the end of it. They asked for the recipe and I politely declined sharing it. Well, this person's attitude definitely changed after I gave them a no. But we have to understand that some of the things that, some of the information that we want, or some of the access that we want to things, um, we're just not going to get that kind of access. They're way too personal, or they're connected to something too personal for people. And people don't owe us those explanations. And I'm also a big believer that what's for you is for you. And I know that that's normally said one way, but I feel like it's the other way too. Like, some things find its way into your life so that it can be for you. And it's not necessarily meant to be given away so freely. You're supposed to keep it for yourself. And that's not to be a gatekeeper. That's not to elevate yourself over somebody else who doesn't have that thing. But some things are gifted to you just to be yours. And I treasure those things in my life. I really do. But I also feel that if it was for them, you are not going to be the only entry point for them to gain access to that thing. It will find them if it is for them too. And I also want to point out that some people find themselves in mess because they're nosy like that and they just want to know everything you got going on. You don't know how these things are attached to people's lives. You don't know if it's attached to some like ritual. And I don't mean ritual to imply something sinister, but sometimes people don't feel comfortable sharing that type of stuff with you. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with closing access to that thing for people. So, friend, I want to leave you with some affirmations to empower yourself, because I know that this is not the easy road, especially if you are a recovering people pleaser, if you are quiet and not so assertive, or if this is just a new concept that you're stepping into because you're young and you're growing in your adulthood. So, here are some affirmations that you can repeat to empower yourself. I am quiet, but I am not invisible. I am kind, but I am not passive. I set boundaries, but that does not mean that I'm angry. And neither are you, friend. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had somebody try to guilt trip you for trying to set or enforce a boundary? Let me know in the comments. If this message found you right when you needed it, go ahead and subscribe, because we have way more things to talk about, friend. Until next time, see you guys.